my name is Jess, and today I'm so excited to talk about my resume from my Disney internship. I am very passionate about resumes. I have spent a lot of time updating mine. I've spent a lot of time going to resume workshops, and I've really tried to take all the information I've learned to make the best possible resume. And it helped me achieve one of my greatest goals, which was getting a Disney Professional Internship. And I really want to share all the information I learned from the application process, the interview process, and then of my internship itself to help anybody else who is looking to someday get a Disney internship or has one coming up. I feel like I watched every video, read every article, found everything online that I could about tips for getting an internship, kind of what they were looking for. But one thing I didn't see that much about was resumes. What resumes did people use? Which resumes worked? What is the best to put on a resume to help get the attention of recruiters? So I'm going to share exactly the resume I used to get my internship for the summer of 2019 and my resume to get an internship in the summer of 2020. Okay, first I'm just going to show my resume. Here's my resume that I used for my summer 2019 applications, and it helped get me interviews for at least 6 different positions, and then it helped me get the offer that I eventually accepted. So I think I'll just kind of walk through it, go through my main tips. So hopefully this will help to see an example of one that has gotten the attention of recruiters and has gotten interviews before. This is specifically dedicated towards college students. Being a college student is a unique type of resume. A lot of these tips will apply to anyone regardless of their education status, but a lot of this is specifically towards college students. And then specifically this resume I used my junior year of college, and this one I used my senior year of college. So I guess we'll go through my more recent one first. So you'll see I start at the top with education. That is super important to do, especially when you're a college student. And by the time you're in your really second year of college, you should remove high school. Your high school is not that relevant, it's not that interesting, it's just taking up unnecessary space on your resume. And instead of saying that you're doing it present or current, put the year that you're assuming you'll graduate. That helps them have an idea of where you are in your time in college. So, like, even though I was submitting this in 2019, I had 2020 as my college end date on here. Go Bears! I went to Berkeley. Loved that. Then I also put my study abroad program because that was something I was in the middle of doing while I was submitting applications. So that was really fun to have on there because it was a great talking point. I mean, you really want to think of these resumes as a guideline for what the recruiters and the interviewers can talk to you about. This is everything that they're going to know about you going into an interview or deciding if they want to interview you. So you don't want to add anything extra on here that you wouldn't want to talk to somebody about in an interview. And if there's something fun you would love to talk about in an interview, make sure you put it on the resume. That, I think, is a really good way to think about what kind of content should be included and what shouldn't be included. So education goes at the top. And then experience. I would recommend starting with the experience that's most recent at the top, or most relevant to the roles that you're applying for. So a lot of times in school you might be working a job at a restaurant or at a store. That's not exactly work experience directly correlating to the role you're trying to apply for. That can definitely be on your resume, but you want to find a way to make the order highlight the most relevant experiences at the top, and then maybe you put your store or restaurant experience a little bit farther down, depending on kind of the order of importance you want the recruiter to read it in. So from my experience, I did an internship with a local company where I actually got to work on the marketing and HR team. That was a really great experience. My next experience on here is a professor that I worked with, great connection. He ran a company, and so I ran his social media pages for him. That was a really great opportunity to get experience, and I did get paid for that. And then I also did a program with a professor as like a research group. We didn't really end up doing that much research. That was not paid, that was kind of volunteer, but it was relevant experience where I was cataloging videos and doing stuff like that. So that's everything I have under my experience category. It's very important that your formatting is consistent, all the titles. I love having fun fonts in there. I love having fun colors, especially because I'm applying to a role that's slightly creative. It's really great to kind of have the fun formatting in there. And then your bullet points, you really want to have them go all the way across the page. You don't want a bunch of white space in there. So add a few words or take out a few words so it doesn't spill over to one word on the next line. That's always best to avoid just for how you look at it. Then at the bottom I called it leadership and involvement. So those were roles that I had mostly with clubs at school. So I started the Disney Club at Berkeley, so I was the president of, and we did a ton of amazing activities through that club, and that was always a really fun thing to talk about during Disney interviews. They were always very interested in that, so I had that listed at the top. I was in a Berkeley Women in Business Club, and then I was on the lacrosse team, and I did have a leadership role there, organizing travel for everyone, so that was some relevant experience, and in the Business Careers and Entertainment Club. So those are the 4 clubs I have listed, and again I have points on there, not necessarily about what the clubs did, but what I actively did in those clubs, what I organized, what I attended, what I planned, because that's what they want to see, is what you did at those clubs. And I really like this 2-column format. I felt like this gave me a lot more flexibility to add in interesting and relevant information and to really pack it all in there, get as much as I could on one page, because it should always be one page. And so the 2 columns really helped me with that. So on the right hand column, I had my contact information, my skills, so that's really great to show that you can do Word, Photoshop, anything in the Adobe suites, any analytical softwares you know. Like listing specific programs can be really great. And then I also put language. I had a basic understanding of Spanish. I think I've taken that off. This was a few years ago when I definitely knew Spanish a lot better from classes I took in school. But again, if somebody now were to interview me and ask me to speak Spanish, I don't know that I would feel as comfortable speaking it, and I wouldn't want to tell them about it. So that's how I know to take it off of my resume. Before, I was very comfortable speaking in it. I'd love to get back to that. And then I had interests. So those are fun things I like to do. I was on the gymnastics team. I did a lot of hiking. And those, again, are fun topics to kind of talk about potentially during an interview. And then last I had events and projects, and this is something I really emphasize to college students. A lot of people might not have the opportunity. I feel very lucky that there were clubs that I really loved and got to have great leadership roles in that gave me good experience, and I was able to get some cool internships, but not everybody has the opportunity. And so that's where I think the events and projects can be a really great place to showcase your skills, because maybe your experiences come from classes. So highlight a final project you did, what your team completed, what steps you took, what you presented, maybe a research paper, maybe a data analytic, I don't know. Recruiters definitely understand that when they are hiring college students, so much of their experience and their education comes from what they do in college. So you really want to share that and showcase that, and if you feel bad because you don't have their work experience, that's your place where you can really beef it up, really show them how much you can do, even though it's in classes instead of in work. And then something that I thought was really fun was, my name's Jessie, of course, so I love Jessie the Cowgirl, so only for the Disney applications I would add a little Jessie image there, and that was really fun. A few recruiters definitely mentioned that. They're like, oh yeah, Jessie, I noticed your Jessie thing. You don't need to add a Disney character. That's not the only way to be creative. I've seen a lot of people do, special interests at the bottom, and it's like eating churros or making magic, or, some people add little graphics of like how proficient they are in certain things, and you can make it Mickey Mouse shaped. I think there are a lot of ways to kind of sprinkle some Disney magic in, make the resume custom to the Disney positions, and that is a kind of a fun way to stand out. Okay, so I've gone through mostly my older resume, so this is my one from 2020. Very similar overall. You can see I shifted from the pink to the blue. I still liked having the fun colors, but I felt like the blue was easier to read, and I didn't have it in quite so many titles. I just wanted it to be easy to read. And then it's pretty similar. I just kind of updated some of the years, updated some of my tasks and positions, updated my interests, and then of course on this one I am able to have my Disney internship listed at the top, which is really cool. But overall, very similar resume. Okay, a few other notes about the logistics of resumes. It's really important to name it. Don't name it resume. When you save it as a PDF, put it as your name, because then if somebody saves it to their computer, the name of the document is your name, so that makes it really easy to find. Always save it as a PDF. That just makes sure that none of the formatting gets messed up, no matter how anybody opens it. And a fun thing to remember about resumes is that when it's saved as a PDF, you can add links. So I had the link to my LinkedIn profile. I also had the link to my portfolio. I didn't have the best portfolio ever, but I did have one that I made in Weebly. It's free, really easy, and I was able to upload examples of social media accounts that I've run, examples of design that I've done in Photoshop. You can link those in your profile, which is really great. And then something that was also very relevant was cover letters. So when I first started applying, I was writing custom cover letters for every single position. And I was applying to 50 positions or so. I'll make another video all about the different positions I've applied for and interviewed for. But because my experience was varied, there were a lot of positions I could apply for regarding communications, event planning, marketing, all kinds of stuff like that. So I was writing cover letters for all of these, and then I kind of just stopped writing the cover letters, and the position I ended up getting the offer for was one that I did not write a cover letter for. I think it was a waste of time. Unless the position specifically said it wanted a cover letter, I don't think the cover letter did that much for me. I think my resume was able to communicate most everything that I wanted to about where I was from, what experience I had, what I was interested in. My cover letter, I'll show it here. I think it's really great to have the formatting be the same as your resume and then save them in one PDF so you can scroll from the cover letter to the resume, and I think they look really nice together. So that was something I was really happy with. I added my signature at the bottom. And just overall, you want it to look clean. You want it to use all the space. You want it to be easy to read. You want to think someone's scanning it for 15 seconds. What are they going to pull from this? I would do that exercise with myself all the time. Just look at it fresh when I haven't looked at it in a while. What are the main points? Do they stand out? Are they clear? Is it easy to follow my path? Everybody's path is different, so there might be a certain way you want to number things or add certain technologies, kind of depending on what area you're in, what you're studying. So you want to find what works best for you and what makes your resume just very easy to navigate, very clear to pull information from. Another point that I really love is for your bullet points, start with fun verbs. Let me find a few of my verbs. So for fun verbs, you organized something, you led something, you updated something. There are a bunch of websites you can look up that just have a ton of these verbs listed. If you say, did this, did that, responsible for this. It's like, okay, well, what did you do with that responsibility? What action did you actually accomplish? That helps just paint a much more dynamic picture in the mind of whoever is reading the document. And then, of course, adding numbers is always good. If you can help show what kind of outcome came from what you did, how many people attended the event, how many people read whatever you provided, how many people did you interview for this project, those kinds of numbers help give the reader an idea of the scale of your project. And then keep it fun. I think it's so great to add personal information about who you are and what you love to do. That helps the recruiter connect with you so much more. It helps the team imagine what kind of person you are and what kind of skills you would bring to the table. You really just want to paint a full picture of the person you are, which is work, which is school, but also with interests. I just think that that is always really important to add because that's part of what makes me me. Last point, resumes are never finished. They can always be improved. So make sure you're asking other people for their input. Go to your college career counselor, email them to a friend, and when people have feedback, listen to them. Make changes every few months, go in and update it. Your resume is always getting better. All right, I think that's it. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope that this helped you in your journey. I wish you the best of luck as you create your resume. Find some other videos about my position specifically that I ended up doing, tips for the interview process, and if you have any other questions that I can answer, please leave them in the comments below. I really want to share as much information as I can about the process because I feel so grateful to have gone through it, and it's something that I love talking about. So thank you. Yay, go get that job.